connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett, and I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on YouTube. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it, especially if you love the movies?
Tango Shalom is now available on all VOD
major platforms. I think we messed that up.
Video on demand, or as they say in the trade, VOD.
VOD.
Tango
Shalom is now available on all VOD platforms,
which means
video on demand.
Look how you know. You must be a high school graduate.
I'm a college graduate.
Really?
Yes.
I got an honorary degree from Hofstra. Did you get an honorary degree?
No, I got a degree.
Oh, well, I got honorary. You know, I'm in the Jewish Museum.
What for?
What do you mean? As a famous Jew in the Bronx. I'm in the famous...
I'm in the Prospect Park in the Stones.
How big is the stone?
Robservations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, your evangelist of the imagination, and, of course, your existential Mr. Rogers, or whatever names anyone wants to hang on me. Robert Meyer Burnett, and I am Robcasting it. You imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. This is Robservations 763. I have a very special guest with me today. You've met him before. He's been on the show. Kevin, the comic doctor. I want to have Kevin come on. We have a new Marvel show debuting tonight at midnight. And Kevin, of course, welcome once again to Robservations. Now, we last saw you when we gave away a copy of Eternals #1 from 1976, and we had one of our viewers in Ireland who won it. Did you get that comic to him?
It went out. Now, whether it's gotten to him or not is another story. So hopefully when he does receive it, he'll let either yourself or myself know that he has received it safe and sound.
That is a good thing. And we're going to do another giveaway today. Actually, a few, right?
A couple anyways, that's for sure.
And we're going to celebrate the release of Hawkeye. What will we be giving away later on in the show?
Well, today we're going to be giving out, first off, a nice copy of House of M. Now, House of M didn't feature Hawkeye necessarily. It featured pretty much the entire Marvel universe, but this copy had a really nice image of Hawkeye featured on the front cover. So it's House of M number 4 in a 9.8.
That is sweet.
That's a nice looking book. And to go along with that, now this one's not slabbed yet. This one is still raw, but it is Hawkeye #1 featuring Kate Bishop's first solo story. And the winner of this particular book, I will have it clean and pressed and shipped off to CGC and graded and then sent to them. Might take a little bit longer, but it'll get there eventually.
Yes. And I trust you because you're better at sending things to people than I am.
I'm still waiting on those boxes, Rob.
I know. And you'll get them.
I know. One day. That's okay.
Now I have to ask you, obviously, you're a huge fan. Science fiction, fantasy, horror. You like vintage cars. You like nostalgia.
Love it.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general, and specifically as a longtime comic book fan, what do you think so far of Phase 4?
Well, I talk about this a lot with all my clients. This type of topic comes up in the shop all the time. I think Endgame was the pinnacle. You know what I mean? It was, we were all waiting for it, and they really got into their stride. Marvel was in their stride there. Every movie was hitting $1 billion, but they were also really good. You know, Ragnarok's probably my favorite. Civil War, Winter Soldier, you name it, they were great. You know, Captain Marvel, but for the most part, give them 98%. They were good. They were all good. This Phase 4, I'll be honest, even these Disney Plus TV series, I enjoy them. I'm enjoying all of it, but I'm a little underwhelmed, I think, with all of it.
Why do you think that is? Why do you say that? Where do those feelings come from, Kevin?
I don't know. And I just like you, I'm a fan of all the old characters too. You know, I remember Shang-Chi and the Eternals, not so much, but I mean, I was aware of them. I know of them. I don't know what it is, to be honest. I think the Disney Plus series, they didn't have that cinematic feel. And just like you, I think these movies should be seen in a theater with other fans, that energy in the theater. You know, Captain America grabbing Mjolnir, you know, the whole place went crazy. I love that. And I think watching it, I like seeing them at home. You know, it's nice, but at the same time, you just lose that. I don't know, that the power of being in the theater.
Oh no! Look, I think one of the great cinematic moments of the last 2 decades was Captain America grabbing Mjolnir out of the air.
Oh yeah,
and wielding that hammer.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was such a. I have to say that I understand it was a directorial choice, but when Captain America finally said for the first time, "Avengers Assemble," and he whispered it, that wasn't as gratifying. I wanted him to. He would have, if he could have whispered, I would have reversed it. I would have had him go, "Avengers Assemble," you know, something like that. But totally. I understand why they did it that way. But
and I mean, I think it's a rebuild. It's a rebuild right now too. They're getting their footing. You know, will the other characters come back? I kind of think they will at some point. You know,
they always do in the comics.
They always do in the comics. I'll tell you, I'm going to do a video this week on my own channel where I just talk about bonkers things, if you can get more bonkers, that might happen in the Amazing Spider-Man or the movie coming up in the next few weeks. I think would it be cool if something like, could Tony Stark not come back? Are there not other versions of Tony Stark?
Oh yeah,
you know, I'd love to see a Tom Cruise. That'd be awesome.
Well, there's been talk. There's been weird talk of, you know, he was going to play Tony Stark originally before Robert Downey Jr. played him. I mean, why not?
That'd be amazing.
There's all these different iterations of Tony Stark. The multiverse is there. Obviously I think all of us are excited to see Spider-Man Far From Home or No Way Home. No Way Home. I mean, it looks incredible. I just wonder though, you know, all of these Spider-Man movies in the MCU have always been. We've never seen a Spider-Man movie that is sort of outside the influence of other characters. And it would be nice, like, I know they're talking about doing a Kraven movie. It would be nice to see, for whatever reason, Spider-Man has to take on Kraven by himself, you know, and he's cut off, or he doesn't have the aid of the other Avengers.
Yeah, and again, the Iron Spider suit and all that stuff. Yeah, like many, I'm not a big fan of that. That happened all too fast, in my opinion. And it kind of takes away a little bit of Peter Parker's agency. But I do like. I mean, it does look like this new movie's, if nothing else, it's going to be wildly entertaining. It's going to be bonkers, like I said.
I'm looking very forward to it. Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of things in it that we don't even know are in it yet. I think there's a lot of surprises to come.
Oh, there has to be, you know, and I mean, something like that, like I said, even if it's Robert Downey Jr. coming back, which I would not be a bit surprised about that either. And I have a feeling, I think something like that's going to, I mean, his connection with Peter Parker, right, in the MCU, kind of, especially if it's his last go here, if he's not coming back, if that's the case, which I don't know if I believe that either, but.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. You think he's gone? You really think he's gone? He's not going to be the MCU anymore? Spider-Man's like... Gonna leave?
Oh no! Spider-Man's never going to leave the MCU.
No,
that's never going to happen. I mean, I could see Sony wanting to make Control, but what they don't. they're just fine. I think Spider-Man No Way Home, if it's as good as it looks, or if it's as fun, if it delivers the goods the way it looks to do, it'll be the first $1 billion film of the pandemic era, I hope. I mean, with COVID cases spiking in Disney again, in Germany again, who knows? But I think people are going to turn out for it. It's Spider-Man after all. Spider-Man is really kind of the marquee superhero in the Marvel universe. I mean, he's something that all generations know and love. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to where it's going to go, but he's going to stay in the Marvel universe because it's too beneficial for everyone. The last Spider-Man movie made over $1 billion, and it's his connection to the MCU. I do understand that Spider-Man, the Spider-Verse over at Sony, they own it. But now there's the Vulture is showing up in other movies. There's a lot of spillage crossover. We got Morbius, the living vampires coming. They're talking about doing Kraven. We have most of the Sinister Six in Spider-Man.
Most of them, yeah.
No Way Home. You could throw Venom in there. You never know. Spider-Man was literally, mentions of him were literally in the end of the Venom film, which they can do, and Let There Be Carnage. So we'll see. I'm pretty excited.
It looks like Doc Ock is not a villain in this. To me, I get a sense he kind of changes sides. But did you get that sense?
I did. I did, because he's not in the same universe. So Octavius he's a smart guy. He's like, well, I got no beef with you, kid. I've never even been here before.
That's right.
So it's going to be interesting to see where all of that goes, how it all plays out. Because I don't know the answer, but it looks fun.
But isn't it fun kind of speculating, though, and throwing ideas out? That's the best part of it.
Yeah, right? I think it is. Look at I just hope that, I think a lot of people, ever since WandaVision came out, we've been setting ourselves up for disappointment. Oh, it's Mephisto.
Coming.
Yeah, Doctor Strange is acting strange, so what if he's Mephisto? Is it really Doctor Strange? I don't know.
But that's great, too. Even though it wasn't Mephisto, it was a hell of a lot of fun.
It was a lot of yeah. No, it was.
It might not have been the gift you wanted, but it was still a good gift anyways. You know what I mean?
It was, and I think, I find it's really interesting how there's been sort of this backlash against Phase 4. I'm still enjoying the Marvel movies. Like you said, they've gone back to square one. And I think we're seeing the pieces being put into place, whether it's Galactus, who's going to show up when we find out, like in the Earth X miniseries, that he feasts on planets that have Celestials growing in them.
Awesome.
I don't think that it's lost on anyone that the end of Phase 4 is going to have to be the introduction of the Fantastic Four. They've announced the Fantastic Four film.
Well, seeing the size of the Celestials, I was like, oh, I can't wait for Galactus now, right? It's going to be amazing. His sheer size, it was great. Yeah,
and we still have a Celestial that's, well, is he dormant? Is he dead? He's half emerged out of the ocean.
Yeah.
I hunger. Galactus could show up and be like, I'm going to eat your planet anyway.
Yeah, it's like an appetizer,
Yeah, and I think Galactus, I think the Fantastic Four first and foremost. So, I think that John Byrne run, I think about the Earth X miniseries. I can't wait. I'm entertained by Marvel Phase 4. I'm entertained by it.
Look, I don't not like it. I do like it. I love it. I just think it took time for them to get, the whole Thanos thing going, and, a couple of dud movies here and there, but then they really got their stride. Like I was saying, the actors really, like Chris Hemsworth really getting into that role, figuring that Thor character out, all of them figuring their characters out. That was the thing. They were still figuring it all out. Once they got there, though, collaboratively, they were fantastic. They worked together. All of them worked together. They're all friends, I think, outside of the films, I would think. They're all chummy. And that really showed. Their camaraderie showed on screen as well, too. And that was a lot of fun. Now it's gone. So we got to find that again. So, yes, right. I am enjoying these films. I just, I kind of miss, what we had. But it'll get there again. I'm pretty sure.
We're meeting new people, finding out new things.
That's right.
Well, so listen, first of all, where can people follow you on social media?
You can follow me in a few places. I'm on, if you want to see like what I do, I'm a comic book presser, as we said in the last show. You can come on over to my Instagram my Instagram page, and you can see all the before and afters and some of the work I do. And that's at Comic Doc. And that's on Instagram. And then of course here on YouTube, I'm monetized now. So you're going to see a lot of commercials when you come over to my channel. The Comic Doctor, you can find me on right here on YouTube as well, too. And I do weekly shows. Today I did a CGC unboxing where I showed off around 50 CGC slabs.
Can you give us a taste? What'd you get from CGC?
Well, there were some good ones today. Perhaps you've heard of this team here, the Avengers.
Yeah.
Right, that was a nice one.
Now, which issue is that?
That's number one. That's the first appearance of the Avengers. And it's a low grade. It's only a 2.5, but it's still a valuable book nonetheless. So that's a beaut. And again, all these Marvel keys from the early 60s are they're blue chip. They're not going down. They're just going up and up and up. This one here was a sleeper. This one was sleeping for a long time. And now, if you didn't buy one like 2 years ago, good luck. This is a first appearance of Daredevil.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's a sweet. I love this book. Gorgeous. The yellow costume, love it.
Yeah.
So that's another one that's really heating up a lot. Lots of anticipation. Again, will he appear in the Spider-Man movie? And again, just the people speculating about these characters coming into a movie cranks the prices of their respective books up. It's kind of nuts, really. And then, of course, Giant Size X-Men #1, the first appearance of the new X-Men team.
Yep.
So you have the first.
Always a nice book to have.
You have this one, Rob, in your collection?
I do.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Wow. Good shape? So?
It's a little iffy. Maybe the Comic Doctor can help it out.
Yeah, this book usually presses out really nice. I once took a 5.0 up to an 8.0. So these books, they like to press these guys. But, first Colossus, first Nightcrawler and Storm, and awesome book. So good one to have in your collection for sure. So those came in. These came in yesterday from CG from Sarasota.
Nice,
all the way from the sunny Sunshine State. Yeah.
Well, so why don't we give away a book?
All right, you got it. Which one do you want to do?
Let's do the House of M. Let's do the Hawkeye, that Hawkeye cover from House of M. Of course, House of M is when Wanda Maximoff altered reality and put mutants basically at the top of the food chain on Earth.
That's right.
So my question to all of you, which is probably now moderators, you got to look and see who gets Louise, Greg, anyone else is here. We got to look to see who gets the answer first. First person who gets this answer.
Is it a hard one?
I don't know. I mean, it's Google's your friend, but let's see if anyone knows it.
All right.
Hawkeye was first introduced in Marvel comic books as a reluctant villain. What book was he introduced in?
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
I told you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Come on. It is pretty easy.
Yep. I got a copy of that back there somewhere, actually.
Yeah, let's see if anyone knows it. Ragu says that House of M is amazing. By the way, that is an alternate cover, right?
That's a variant cover. It's a Brian Michael Bendis story and a Brandon Peterson cover.
Yeah. By the way, Zachary P says Superman 1? No.
Nope.
No. I believe Colt gets it. Tales of Suspense number 57.
That is the one. And that's also a pretty big book right now. Obviously, the television show is helping a lot. All right, good. Congratulations, Colt.
So there you go, Colt. Please, Colt, get your address to the moderators, and you can ship that book out right away.
I'll ship this baby out probably this week or early next.
All right. Now, all right. This is the first solo appearance of Kate Bishop. And I'm looking for Kate Bishop. She has had affiliations with 2 different teams. Name them both. Kate Bishop's affiliations with 2 different teams. I'm looking for both of them.
I'm going to watch the chat myself here.
Mm-hmm. Let's see who gets it. You need both of them. Charlie the Unicorn did say one. but I'm not going to say what that is. Charlie says, bruh ha AB Montage C gets it.
Yep.
AB Montage C gets it. It's the Young Avengers and the West Coast Avengers. Kate Bishop was first introduced in Young Avengers #1. But she was also a member or part of the West Coast Avengers. Now, let me ask you a question. We saw Wanda's kids. We've got Kate Bishop. Do you think they're going to announce a Young Avengers movie as part of Phase 4? Or are they going to make that a Phase 5 movie? Could that be the next Avengers movie? What do you think?
I think Phase 5. I think it's a ways away. They still got to get these characters figured out. And Wanda's kids are still. Are they even? Do they exist? I mean, it's still pretty
right
ethereal. We don't know, right? So, but I know it's definitely coming. And again, if you got a copy of Young Avengers #1, hang on to it. That baby is going to keep going. I think I'm kicking myself. I had an opportunity to buy a CGC 9.8 about 3 weeks ago. No, about a month ago for about 1,200 Canadian. I passed on it, and now you can't find them less than 15. And I think the trajectory is going up there. Do you have one of those, Rob?
I do not.
Oh, okay. A little too new. Little too new.
Yeah, that book came out later. Although that was mid 2000s, 2005, I think. So,
right.
Maybe. I don't think I did though. Don't think I did. Well, that was fun. Giving away those books.
And congratulate, and please, guys, get your addresses to the moderator so I can get these out to you ASAP.
Yeah, so if we can do that. Donnie Pearson says he was working on his recreation of Eric Wolfgang Korngold's Overture to the Seahawk. If you ever listen to Korngold's score for King's Row, you can hear a lot of Star Wars in that score. Well, anyway, that was fantastic.
Thank you. I thought it was Holtz. Wasn't it Holtz? Did you hear a lot of the Star Wars themes?
That's the planets. No, a Korngold score. You can really hear. Yeah, a lot of Star Wars isn't. But I'm sure it was inspired by the planets. Star Trek 6. Cliff Idleman's score for Star Trek 6 was certainly inspired by the planets.
Yeah, you can certainly hear it.
Yeah.
Back in teachers' college, our dramaturge there would put the planets on. I'm like, hey, it's Star Wars.
So where can people find you? How often do you do your show?
I do my show 2 to 3 times a week. It's nothing, whenever I get a new CGC box in from guys, these come in big boxes of like 25. So when I get a box in, I like to showcase them on my channel so my clients have a chance to see their books showcased. And it's like a show and tell with really nice comic books. So if you like comic book art, you're going to love that. And I do a show called What's in the Press where I actually show the books I'm working on week after week. And I'm starting to do shows like, Rob, we're talking about the Phase 4 and having conversations with my community as well too. That's a lot of fun. Those are fun little chats. So I'm doing that as well. So if you want to join another channel, come on over to the Comic Doctor YouTube channel. Would love to have you subscribe. Certainly,
please do subscribe. And that book you showed up, that I thought that was an actual figure that you'd had, but it's not. It's a book.
Now, this I'm hoping to give away. If you have me back, I was going to give this away when the book of
Boba Fett. Have you back.
All right.
Yeah, well, that's for the book of Boba Fett. I thought it was an action figure when you showed it up, but it's not. What is that exactly?
That is just a Boba Fett variant cover for Star Wars #4. Again, a 9.8. And Rob was announcing this on the half and half, and I sent a picture of this, and he's like, "We're giving out carded vintage Star Wars," and I'm like, "No, we're not."
Hey, that's how convincing that was to me.
Well, that's pretty cool. But yeah, a Boba Fett carded Boba Fett, with a Star Wars card back would be. Yeah,
I don't think they ever made a Boba Fett with a Star Wars card back. It was only Empire. Or did they? Maybe because they gave one.
I think they did.
Did they?
I can tell you my Boba Fett story if you want to hear. It's terrible. You had to cut out those proof of purchases.
That's how I got mine.
Me too. I waited like 3-4 months. There was a Kenner outlet, like a Kenner factory in Toronto, and I'd phone them. Little 9-year-old comic doctor calling Kenner. Are the Boba Fett's in? Are the Boba Fett's in? And they finally came in. They shipped them to me. Came in a little white box. I had it, and I waited so long for it. And you couldn't buy them in stores, Rob. Remember,
Nope.
That's it. And so my mom's like, "Don't take it to school with you. Don't take it to school with you." Well, what did I do? I took it to school with me. Lunchtime came. I put it in my lunchbox. I went out to play. I came back. It was gone.
Wow! Someone pulled a heist and took your Fett.
Someone pulled a heist. Then my friend told me it was a certain kid, and I went and fought with the kid. It was a bad scene all the way around. But anyways, I had to wait like 3 more months before it was released on a card back to buy it again. And I think the early ones are on Star Wars card backs.
They might be.
Yeah, the early ones, the first ones. Yeah, so they're very pricey, very, very pricey.
Well, listen, it was great. It was great to see you on the channel.
You too.
Thanks for coming in, and thanks for doing the giveaways. And I'll make sure that I send you those addresses so you can ship those out.
Excellent, Rob. Thanks. A lot of fun, as always.
All right. It was great to see you. Well, that was Kevin the Comic Doctor. Go and subscribe to his channel. There's a lot of great content there. And, yeah, we'll have him back. We'll have him back to celebrate the Book of Boba Fett. So I want to wish Kevin a great day, and thank you for giving away those excellent books on the channel. Thanks a lot, Kevin. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle beings, kind souls from across the 28 known galaxies, Hawkeye dropping tonight. A lot of people have already seen it. I have not. However, there was a review, a big review. It was on the front page of the Hollywood Reporter. I want to delve into it a little bit. It's not really spoilerific, but I wanted to share this review because not the whole thing. But Angie Hahn wrote this today. It was in the Hollywood Reporter. Your problem is branding, Kate Bishop, Haley Steinfeld tells Clint Barton in the second episode of Hawkeye. Your whole thing is that you're low key. It's very hard brand to sell. She has a point. We've seen that scene in the trailer. She has a point with regard to Clint's big screen appearances, where he tends to be overshadowed by the super soldiers and billionaires who are his Avengers teammates. But she's wrong when it comes to Hawkeye, his first small screen outing. Its low-key vibe is precisely what makes it feel special. And then I'm not going to read what happens in the episode because this goes on. It says, but the series is welcoming to newcomers in a way that other Marvel Disney Plus shows like Falcon and the Winter Soldier have struggled to accomplish. Any necessary exposition is baked into the dialogue or the setting, and the main narrative prioritizes character development and chemistry over intra-franchise connective tissue. You could probably enjoy the buddy comedy action beats of Hawkeye without much caring about what's happening in the rest of the MCU, though all those Easter eggs can feel like pointed invitations to start. And then the review goes on to say, but it's Kate herself who is the true star of Hawkeye and who seems destined to emerge at the other end as a new fan favorite. A college-age troublemaker who's as fast with a quip as she is with an arrow, Kate plays to Steinfeld's strengths previously explored on Dickinson and in The Edge of 17 in conveying brilliance and determination through crackerjack comedic timing. She's especially winning in her scenes with Renner, who parries her youthful enthusiasm with big brother wariness. When Kate brags that some people have actually called me the world's greatest archer, Clint shoots back with a, are you one of those people? I like that. Hawkeye offers the ideal combination of snark and earnestness that nearly all Marvel projects seem to be aiming for to some degree or another. This is a franchise where even a dimension-hopping magic war will grind to a halt for a who's on first bit. Sometimes those comedic beats can feel like strained efforts to undercut the film's own grandeur and self-importance, to insist to viewers that these gods or aliens are really very relatable, despite all evidence to the contrary. But Hawkeye comes by its irreverent sense of humor naturally. Building a whole city around Clint and Kate, populated by a tracksuit mafia right out of the run, Matt Fraction's run on the book, who punctuates every sentence with bro and a very good mutt affectionately known as the pizza dog. So this sounds great. In the meantime, though, Hawkeye stands as a rare treat, a Marvel story worth saving, not in spite of its humbleness, but because of it. Great to hear. That's kind of what I was getting from the trailers. I'm really excited for this show. I'm it sounds like maybe they finally nailed it. I think I've enjoyed all the shows to a certain degree, but they were good, But this seems like maybe this will be the first great Marvel series. Like I said, I've liked most of them to varying degrees, but this one sounds like it's going to be special. It looks like it knows what it is, and I like the fact, I like where it's taking us, to be honest. So, all hail Hawkeye. I've always loved Hawkeye, and I think that I'm really looking forward to seeing this show. So, we'll know tonight. I'm going to watch it at midnight and see what they have to say. Now, I have had a lot of letters coming in because it's been a while. So let's get into it. There are many Robservations letters, and I'm just going to start reading them. Pedro Ferreira, our friend Pedro. Hi, Rob. Happy Halloween. If this letter does not reach you until after Halloween, happy Halloween again. People have been saying recently that Halloween is the GOAT. I didn't understand what this meant. But now, having rewatched the Halloween episode of Quantum Leap that featured a goat, I have come to the conclusion that that's what they mean. Speaking of rather spooky things, something eerie did happen to me a few years ago. Back in 2018, I was trying to watch the excellent The Incredible Hulk series remastered on Blu-ray for the first time. While the series has its limitations, I can't fault the writing, directing, and tragic performance by Bill Bixby. The episode I had an eerie experience with was the Season 2 episode Ricky. The episode featured a character called Ricky, who David befriends even though Ricky has a mental disability. The episode also featured a young Gerald McRaney from The Neverending Story, but I'm going off the point. Ricky was played by actor Mickey Jones. When watching a series for the first time, I like to look up the plot synopsis and guest stars a few episodes ahead of watching, so of course I knew in advance what the episode of Ricky was going to be because I looked up Jones on Wiki. I must say I liked the episode. After I'd finished watching the episode, I went back a day later to look at his Wiki entry to see what other work he's done, only to find out he had died. Before I watched the episode, I'm pretty sure he was still alive, but after I watched the episode, he'd passed away. It's very odd. A similar thing happened recently where 2 or 3 weeks ago I looked up Deep Space Nine's Camille Saviola because I was interested to know how many episodes of the series Kai Opaka was in, and a few days ago it's been reported she passed away. Has anything like this ever happened to you, Rob, where you felt compelled to see a film or research someone only to find out that they, coincidence, had died afterwards? Not really, but I always, you know what, Darlan Flugel, who was in To Live and Die in L.A., we were talking about Battle Beyond the Stars last night on the 101 greatest science fiction movies ever made, the Inglorious Trexperts multi-part series that will be closing out 2021. And I looked her up, and she passed away as well. And that's sad. On a slightly angrier note, I've made my feelings on what happened with the Alec Baldwin accident clear. You talk a lot about the industry being show business, not show friends, but from my own experience trying to get into the industry, I disagree. We've seen Alex Kurtzman continue to produce Star Trek through contacts he has at CBS, not because of the quality of the work. Apparently, he's supposed to be a person who gets on great with the people up top, so his work as the head of producing Trek seems more based on who he knows, not what he knows. Listen, knowing people can only get you through the door so much. You have to deliver. And on certain levels, I guess Star Trek Discovery is delivering for somebody. I am not one of those people. I don't think many people I know are. And if you are one of those people, more power to you. It's good to like things. The people getting jobs are those that are a diversity hire or the result of nepotism. These aren't people who have experience necessary to do the job properly. This is why Hollywood is failing. They put people in charge whose only work experience is posing on Instagram and TikTok. Well, it's not quite like that. People that are actually making movies, the people that are members of IATSE, they really need to know their shit. Otherwise, if you don't know your shit on a movie set, you don't last very long, let me tell you. What I'm about to say sounds scathing, but needs to be said. I came across a tweet from someone who said that being 30 years old, she and her coworkers who are in their early to mid-20s make continuously fun of and laugh at older people in other roles because their views are outdated and they cannot accept change. I responded that maybe she should talk to Mr. Baldwin. Young millennials and Zoomers are killing the industry both creatively and now literally. Kind regards, Pedro. That's a hot take, Pedro, but perhaps, maybe that's somewhat true. But don't blame everything on millennials. Ridley Scott was already doing that this week. And I think, look, it's not that it's every generation wants to have things that they can call their own. And every generation has always been like that. And every generation will get old. And they'll see the same process happen. I do think that this generation, I have watched the idea of respect for people that are older, that have institutional knowledge, erode away. And there's an idea that, people who are old are set in their ways, or they know how to do things the correct way. I think a lot of what we see now, a lot of the mistakes that happen, say, in the home video industry, happen because people aren't checking their work. They're not thorough. They don't understand. And work is hard. And I see a lot of that happening. And there is I've often said, I call it the Simpsons Effect. We have 30 years of people growing up in the shadow of Bart Simpson. And I think that kind of thinking, when I was a kid watching TV shows like sitcoms, Leave It to Beaver, The Partridge Family, The Brady Bunch, My Three Sons, whatever, the adults in the room always knew what was up. It was the kids that were messing up. Now we see a reverse paradigm where the kids are the smartest people in the room, and they've all been grown up to think that that's true of them, and it isn't. But every generation has to learn that. But I do think it's problematic, especially for industry jobs that require thorough understanding of processes. And it's not just pressing a button or hitting a computer keystroke to make things happen properly. Omar94 says, "Hi, Rob, moderators in the Post-Geek Singularity. This will be a quick letter. I just want to say I'm looking forward to seeing how this new format on your YouTube channel will turn out, as you want to do a 30-minute show in the morning and then doing Robservations in the afternoon 5 days a week. Well, I'm not quite to 5 days a week yet, but yes. It can give people a chance who can't make it for Robservations live in the afternoon to make it in for the morning show and perhaps interact in the live chat. Hope so. Hope you guys are enjoying it. All in all, we'll see how this will turn out. Fingers crossed it works out for the best. Thanks, and live long and prosper." Well, only you can tell me, Omar, do you think it's working out for the best? I've really been enjoying it. Just so people know, I will not be doing a show on Thanksgiving. There will be no shows. I might have some pre-recorded stuff dropping on Thanksgiving Day, but I will not be doing a half and half on Thanksgiving. Tom Jr. Jackson writes in and says, "Hello, Rob. Lately I've been thinking about the Post-Geek Singularity, and what about it? I bet you were thinking. Well, it's the close-knit community that we have here. Like, I have a messenger group with some close-knit members who I call good friends, and the other day one of these friends was having a problem about how their life turned out, which brought out the rest of my group to talk about how they felt about this subject. Now, I'm willing to bet that every person in the Post-Geek Singularity at one point or another has come to this crossroad in their life, and there's no shame in it. We all end up on that crossroad. I mean, at no point in my life did I ever say to myself that I want to have 2 kidney transplants and be immunocompromised because of it. I'm sure you've had all those moments too. Well, maybe not my moments, but it made me take notice of something. This is a community that has each other's backs. The support that my friends shown this individual was amazing because it not only surprised him, but me as well. As imagination connoisseurs, we have all these standards that we live up to, give an honest and fair opinion, and if we don't agree with that opinion, then we have a great open discussion about it. We gather to watch your shows and interact and drop knowledge and such to each other, but most important, we have each other's backs. If someone's having a problem, we are there for them and see if there's anything we can do to help them the best we can. Now, I don't think there's any other community that I'm a part of on social media that does that. Not only does that make me proud to be a Post-Geek Singularity member, but also proud to be in a community that is like this. Sure, we may have our disagreements, and that's normal. I mean, I've had my fair share of people who have said things to me that were not favorable and kind of rude, and not once did I give those people the time of day because it's just a waste of time to do something like that, to give into something negative. Now, I will admit this has happened to me during different times in my life, and when I was younger, I was not one who could control how I dealt with it, but now that I'm older, I know it is not worth the time that I will get back to get into that kind of match, and those kind of people don't deserve the attention that feeds into it. Look, it's now 5:10 a.m., and I'm getting deep here. I'm not a perfect person. None of us are, and my life isn't where I expected it to be. But hey, here we are. I'm among people who I call friends, including you, Rob, and it blows my mind that in this past year or so I've become friends with someone who I not only respect, but I'm a fan of. If I could go back in time like 10 or 11 years ago, or even to when I was in high school and tell myself about what would happen in the past year, well, for one, people would think I was crazy talking about being friends with someone who works in Hollywood and makes movies, and then that I was that I was nuts that a T-shirt with one of my sayings would be on it. You see, Rob, it's this very community of people like Script Doctor, Zephyr Chan, and the lovely who have convinced me that my Zoom chat should be recorded and turned into a show because I have a way of bringing people together and coming up with some great conversations. So I thought I would start up my own show, which is called Something Chat Show with Tom Jr. Jackson. I like it. We'll make a T-shirt for that. A little wordy? Maybe. But it makes one ask, what is something? See, it's all about the title. So I know my show wouldn't be 6 or 7 hours long, Sorry, but that's Midnight Metal territory, and I will leave that to my Zoom chats. No, it'll be something cool and also live. Well, I look forward to that something chat show with Tom Jr. Jackson. Bring it on. Well, I've rambled on enough, and it's time to give my fellow PGS time to have their letters read on your show by you. So thank you, Rob, for creating this awesome community of people and letting me and let me tell you, that Kino Lorber is releasing To Live and Die in L.A. on 4K Blu-ray. And that was for Stubble McShave and Mikey Lito, who have now jumped on the bandwagon with me on telling you this. But Rob, if I may leave you with a little advice, I know you told us you have to move and find a new place with Elizabeth, the dogs, and the girls. Oh, and your hot toys, can't forget them. Don't worry about us if you can't do shows while packing and stuff. We'll be here when the Robservatory B is up and functional. We have your back, buddy. Until next time, Tom Jr. Jackson, Emeritus de Goof. Well, thank you for that. That's very nice. This one comes from our old friend Enterprise H, historian of Hollywood. Greetings. My apologies for not writing in sooner. I was busy preparing something for you. I have read what you sent me. It is very extensive, and there was a lot of work put into it. But I would say this. I don't really know, without, I don't want to say what it is. Basically, Enterprise H wrote a very, very in-depth proposal for a potential series for a franchise we all know and love. The problem is there's nothing I could do with something like that. I mean, maybe I could try and pitch it as a comic book or something, but I don't have any ties to the actual owners of the franchise to take that in and do anything with it. But it's beautifully done. It's really well done. It's really well thought out. Now, if you were to turn it into an original IP, that could be interesting. But anyway, this is really interesting. For today's letter, though, I wanted to talk about historical events. Have you ever learned about a historical event so fascinating that you could not help but wonder why there was not a movie on the matter? For example, do you know the origin for the term redneck? I do not. This year, I learned about the Battle of Blair Mountain, which happened 100 years ago. The largest insurrection since the Civil War, when 10,000 rednecks, actually, is that 100,000? No, it looks like 10,000 rednecks, many of whom were World War I veterans, marched on Blair Mountain. I'd always heard the term being used to mean backwards and racist people, but the rednecks of 1921 were a multiracial coalition of coal miners who got their name from the red bandanas they wore. The first time in American history when black men were given positions such as commanders and logistics officers. Is it just me, or would that make for an amazing movie? Actually, it sounds like it would make for an amazing movie. Enterprise H, NCC 1701H. P.S. I hope the letter was of sufficient quality. I had a hard time getting it written when there are a number of subjects that I wanted to write about. No, I think that was pretty great. Pretty great letter. This next one comes from Forthus. I think that those who don't think that Denis Villeneuve's Doom will be profitable are not seeing the forest through the trees. What people do not understand is that by introducing this world with a part one, he's created an opportunity to maximize the next film's box office draw by creating a re-release market for the film. Consider that when Dune 2 comes out in 2 or 3 years, theaters will want to capitalize it by showing part one again to prime the interest in the next installment of the Dune franchise. Avatar, which in my opinion was more a visual experience than a unique or profound narrative story, has made more money in re-release. According to the Wrap, Avatar has had at least 3 re-releases that combined to gross over $54 million. Villeneuve's Dune franchise is likewise a visual experience and, in my opinion, a better narrative and unique story. Like Avatar, Dune is tailor-made to increase its box office take from re-releases to put it squarely into a profitable position, not to mention the post-theater markets. Forthus. Forthus, it is also on HBO Max, so it'll always be available for people to see. So I don't know how profitable it would be during a theatrical release, but definitely so. Maybe they could add a little bit more to it. Yeah, could be. But you might be right. I think Dune's going to be with us for a long time, and there's going to be the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood series, so we'll see. This one comes from the Neurotic Backpacker on Instagram or the Neurotic BP on YouTube. Hi, RMB. Watching the Critical Drinker stream. I was on the Critical Drinker stream last week. You mentioned someone who had worked on Band of Brothers had a script for a Star Trek series before it was shelved. Yes, Eric Jedrinson, who is the supervising producer of Band of Brothers, was tapped. They officially went after him. Kerry McCluggage, when he was running Paramount, asked Eric Jedrinson to write a Star Trek script. He didn't know much about Star Trek. They really kind of had to beg him. And Jedrinson, unlike, I don't know, the stewards of Discovery, watched a lot of episodes of Star Trek, really immersed himself in the lore before he wrote the screenplay. And the screenplay takes place, if memory serves, 8 years after the end of Enterprise, the series Enterprise. Even Admiral Archer's in the movie, and it's about a graduating class of Starfleet Academy and the outbreak of the Romulan War. How you described Earth protecting Vulcans had my mind wondering, could it have been an unconscious representation of Jewish people? I know it sounds strange, I never thought about it before, but with the 60s series bringing in different people, it just made me wonder. Excuse my ignorance, I'm more of a passive viewer of the older shows and the films. Regards. Well, no, you're not wrong, Neurotic Backpacker. That's exactly what it was. So in the script, the Romulans are going after planets where Vulcan colonies have been set up, where they have embassies or where the Vulcans are lending their expertise to various planets throughout the system. And the Romulans are going after the Vulcans, but they are demanding that these planets turn over whatever Vulcan populations they have on those planets. Otherwise, the Romulans will destroy those planets. And Earth is defiant. Earth says, F you. And it starts from there. Really interesting. It's definitely allegorical. There's more than a little resemblance to maybe what might have happened in the Nazi Germany if someone stuck up for the Jews. But it's definitely a part of that. The whole idea of ethnic cleansing. Very, very interesting. I really like the script. And it was going to be part of a trilogy. He called his first part the Iliad. The second part was going to be the Odyssey. And he hadn't figured out what the third part was going to be yet. It's really unfortunate because I thought the script was full of great characters. I really, really enjoyed it. And you know, what was really neat is it opened in San Francisco Bay, and these cadets it was a regatta. It was a boat race. And the sailboats were like hover boats that are just skimming the top of the water, sailing vessels. I mean, I saw it open. I mean, I could only imagine you'd see the Paramount logo, and the camera would push past the Paramount logo and down into like San Francisco Bay, and you'd catch up, and it would be this great, high seas moment where these cadets are showing what they're made of. And I loved it. I mean, I wish that, unfortunately, the regime changed at Paramount. They were on the outs, and the script died a quiet death. But it was a great script. And, hey, if I ran Paramount, I'd make that. I'd make a show that's rather than go back. I mean, the problem that I have with Discovery and soon-to-be Strange New Worlds is they're covering territory that we've already covered, which is something only modern Star Trek has done. The great thing about the Berman era of Star Trek that Roddenberry started, you had Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and then even Enterprise went back to a part of Star Trek history that we were unaware of. And while Star Trek Enterprise is not by any stretch of the imagination perfect, it is interesting. So there's a lot of great episodes. By the time they got to season 4, it was cooking on all cylinders. There's some really wonderful episodes in season 4. But there's also some good episodes buried there in Enterprise. I really like. I've talked about Cogenitor. I think is a great episode of Star Trek. The Xindi arc is a lot of strong stuff in that. But it would have been fun to go back and deal with a period of time like with the Romulan War and saw how that all played out. So, yep, that's the story there. But you're not wrong, Nerdrotic Backpacker, and all of that. Let's see. I think I've got some more letters. No, I read those. And I know there's more. I just have to find them. This one comes this one comes from Cybergorn Star Trooper. And he says, so I've been meaning to get around to Discovery for a little while now. Okay, 3 years. I have a long list of stuff and not so much time to watch TV. Don't judge me. Anyway, it looks like I've missed my opportunity. Did I miss anything, Rob? He's writing in regards to Discovery being yanked off Netflix in foreign territories. Did I miss anything, Rob? Rob, only joking. I know your views on Discovery. Well, here's the thing. As much as I cannot stand Star Trek Discovery for a myriad of reasons, I think it's important to watch Discovery because, to me, it shows what not to do with a franchise. It shows how, like, and my big objection to it all, in a nutshell, is that I used to watch, I used to watch Star Trek because they were people that I would aspire to be one day. One day I dreamt of being like the kinds of people in Star Trek. I think Star Trek Discovery is now made for an audience that wants to see themselves in those roles. It really is. And the idea of excellence or the elite, that this was the top 1% of human beings out there amongst the stars because you had to be. The character of Michael Burnham, to me, is Sonequa Martin Green is a beautiful woman and a great actress. Her character is completely unbelievable. I don't believe a character like her would ever exist in Starfleet. From the time that she basically committed mutiny. To this week's episode, not the one that's dropping this week, but last week's episode where she actually left her post as captain during a red alert because she was the only qualified. Look, if she's the only qualified person to do everybody else's job, then why is she captain of a starship? Why doesn't she go take those other people's jobs? A captain has to delegate responsibility to the rest of their crew. So when I watch a character written like, I'm the only person that can save this, I'm like, fuck you, writers, for writing a wholly unbelievable character in an unbelievable situation that would never act that way. There is no military chain of command. The actors themselves don't even understand the command structure on board Discovery. I defy you. Tell me who the next 4 people in the chain of command are. Would there be nobody? I mean, Sonequa Martin Green would say, you know what? I'm a better first officer than my own first officer, so I'm going to relinquish command, and I'm going to go do the first officer's job. That's basically how absurd the show is. I hate it so much I can't begin to tell you how much I hate that show. And I watch it because it's an abject lesson in horrific genre writing. Really, really bad. And, that's why I watch it. So there you go. I don't even know what to say. There's a guy named Prime Red who writes to me and says, hello, my name is Christian, but I go by Prime Red on YouTube. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and I would love to have a live stream conversation with Mr. Burnett regarding Star Trek in general. Maybe talk about the work you did on the TNG restoration project. If not, I completely understand. Thank you for your time, Christian. And Christian's YouTube channel is, well, let's see. He sent me a link. His YouTube channel is Prime Red, and he only has 292 subscribers. He's got a mecha suit there. Heck, I'll subscribe. Everyone go to Prime Red's channel and give him a subscription. Sure, I'll stream with you. Why not? We could have fun. Or as Captain Kirk would say, it sounds like fun. So, yeah, man. Let's do it. I'm all for it. Because why not? Sure. Let's see what you guys have to say now. What do you have to say? I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and find out. Wow, Alex C. has a lot to say. I can see a lot to say there. Appreciate that. Julius Goodwin, who I talked to this morning. But you know what? I think I'm going to bring this up. He brought this up this morning. I'm going to read this again. Julius Goodwin says, has COVID completely destroyed the viability of the movie industry? It seems we might never see billion-dollar movies box office, even with the MCU. Well, Julius, it's a good question. I was just listening to this on NPR today. That question is a good one. You know, are people going to turn out the fact that something like The Last Duel with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and Jodie Comer would not make money, and Adam Driver, that no one even turned out for that? I think, look, the thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe or big superhero franchise properties or things like that, people will turn out for those because they are 4-quadrant movies. But I don't know. Will we ever be free of COVID? Who knows? Will the business ever go back to the way it's gone back? I don't know. I think once you're getting first-run movies in theaters, it's going to be hard to put back that genie in the bottle. And we shall see. It really comes down to economics. Can the economics work? I don't know. I hope they can. It's a good question. Stubble McShave sends in a tip and says, I spit out half my drink all over the room when I watched the Red Letter Media's Half in the Bag of the latest Ghostbusters movie. It was at 19 minutes and 10 seconds that he said, it was like a nostalgia bukkake. I was drowning. I couldn't breathe. God damn, I love Red Letter Media. You know, I have to tell you, the guys at Red Letter Media, the first time I discovered them was Plinkett, their character of Mr. Plinkett, reviewed Star Trek Generations. And I think that was the only Plinkett review that was up. I don't even think they had done the other 3 next-gen films. It was so spot on. I'm like, oh my God, these guys think about Star Trek exactly the way I think about Star Trek. I was beside myself. But I watched that whole review of Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I've heard people say exactly the same things. There's people that really like it, and then there's people like Red Letter Media that really didn't. And I haven't seen it yet, but I have a tendency to believe that I will fall down on the side of what Red Letter Media thinks, only because I'm a huge fan of theirs, and we usually park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. So, look, I hope I like the movie, but it seemed to me, my big takeaway from the various iterations or the various opinions I've heard, not iterations, but the opinions I've heard from a lot of people. Some people really love it. But then there are other people that think that it's more about the audience than it's about telling a new story. And I think that's problematic as well. But we'll see. Again, I haven't seen it, but I'm really interested. Jason S. says, Rob, did you feel the burn again? That shit show is back and wants to ruin the Federation, and that would destroy it. Go off the rails and whip out that dialogue and tell us about how bad that Star Trek Discovery has been. Though don't have a heart attack or pass out again. Well, Jason, you know what? I have refrained from doing actual reviews of the show, but again, I don't believe any of those people would actually exist in the Star Trek universe. They are all written to be people of today. They don't act like Starfleet officers. They certainly don't act like they respect the situation they're in. They act like people of today, and I hate that. And I wouldn't follow any one of them anywhere. And in this past episode, like I said, Michael Burnham, as captain of the Discovery, leaves the bridge during a red alert because she says, I'm the only person qualified to do this. If you're the only person qualified, then why do you have a crew, lady? I mean, give me a break. And you're telling me that you're well versed in 32nd century work bee technology? Anyway. So Jason S. Yeah. Alex C. says, I believe it should be addressed, so I'll be the one to write about it. A no-holds-barred discussion, I propose. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the fucking 13-year-old elephant in the room that is John Campea. Ooh, well, I mean, look, I have the utmost respect for John. I think he puts on one of the best shows on YouTube, technically, and his content and the way he's developed his show is great. I've heard a lot of people have been saying some certain things about, like, he said that when I was fired, he was the one that rehired me, and I'm like, that's not quite how it happened. I wasn't fired. One, I worked free for the Schmodown. I was basically a volunteer. I did my character, the captain, because I really liked to do it, but I was not on their payroll. I never received a check from the Schmodown. And also, so when it was objected, when my one tweet that was blown up and taken out of context, when that went down, they didn't need my services anymore. I wouldn't necessarily consider that being fired because I was a volunteer there anyway. Now, when it came to what happened with Collider, that was a situation where John Schnepp passed away. I was his guest. And when John Schnepp was gone, there was really no place for me on the show. But I believe that there was people were in a lot of grief, and that clouded their judgment. And I was accused by certain parties of trying to usurp the show and all this weird stuff, where I said I had no interest in doing any of that because I was John Schnepp's guest on Collider. But it was handled poorly all around. And during that time, John called me up and said, John Campea said, "Hey, you want to come do my show with me?" And I said, "Sure." I mean, I wasn't necessarily even planning to go back to Collider. We hadn't really discussed that, so yeah. But I don't know. John had said, I keep hearing from John, look, the simple fact is, I am not going to drive 2 hours to be on a 90-minute show where we're not even shown in the same frame. You know, John said, I think John's, if you look the way he's got his set done, it's great. It looks great. It looks tremendous. But if you're going to have multiple guests on a show, you know, have them so we can see each other, like we can interact in the same frame. I mean, if you look at, I love Kimberly and Ray, and I think they're great, and yet it doesn't even look like they're in the same room when they're on screen because it's a black curtain. But so that's all it really comes down to. Alex C goes on to say, I've been watching him since the 2012 AMC days, so yeah, I know him very well, and I've seen everything daily right up until you left, Rob. You did yourself a favor by moving on from his show. Well, I mean, I've been there for 3.5 years. I really enjoyed streaming with John. We had a lot of fun together. He taught me a lot about YouTube. But I don't see the idea of driving that distance for diminishing returns. I mean, over the course of, if I did a show for 4 days, that's 8 hours. That's a full work day during the week. And I'd only be doing 1.5-hour shows. I would be driving more than I would be broadcasting. And if I was making a lot more money, it might be worth my while, but, you know. Alex C goes on to say, and I'm glad you came up with the half and half. Seriously, thank you for your daily dose of you. So can you never affiliate yourself with a late 40s-year-old man like Campea who giggles when someone says the word 69? See, I don't giggle when I hear the word 69. I just smile longingly and think, well, sometimes that works out. Sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. You can't do your best work, if you know what I'm saying. But I'm a fan. Alex C. goes on to say, the name of the game is Adapt or Die. John is reverting back from an in-person show. Bruh, come on. The future's here. For better or for worse, the pandemic definitely helped accelerate the future we're now finding ourselves living in. I agree. These video chats are fucking here to stay. The audio-video quality is only getting better from here, so it really won't matter if you're actually in person or behind your computer, will it? I don't think it is. I don't think it does. I think when we're streaming, it's like we're in the same place anyway. Alex, first of all, thank you for supporting the channel with all these tips. What I get from this change-up of his is that he doesn't like to adapt, and especially doesn't like working with others. Well, you know, it's his show. I mean, the John Campea show, I was always a guest, kind of like I was on Heroes. It wasn't the John and Rob show. It was the John Campea show. And he is, and I like being on the John Campea show. You know, we're different kinds of people. And I would have no objection if John wanted to go back and do I could stream. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But I mean, you know, I kind of like doing the Hollywood half and half. It's kind of fun for me. I mean, I've only done it 7 times, so but it's fun. You know, I actually get up early. I have to figure out what I'm going to talk about, which stories are worth talking about, and then I have to set the show up, which takes a little bit of work, and I like it. I think it's fun. Willow, the lovely Willow Yang. Willow says, Ridley Scott seems pretty cranky, but I do feel bad about The Last Duel's poor performance at the box office. Do you think Gladiator would have been financially successful if it had been made today? That's a good question. I think it probably would have, because it's a movie about a hero, you know, a reluctant hero. A man who is wronged and comes back for revenge. It has a lot of these classic storytelling tropes. Not that The Last Duel doesn't, but there's something about Gladiator that, you know, I watch Gladiator and it's got that thing. It's one of my favorite. I love Gladiator. I've seen Gladiator probably 60 times. I love it. I got my Maximus figure right behind me. Can't really see it. He's right off screen right here. I love Gladiator, and Gladiator's fantastic. I think Gladiator probably would have succeeded, but maybe not to the degree that it succeeded when it came out 20 years ago. It'll be interesting. Alex C. says, it makes sense. John Campea is socially awkward to the max, even on his own show. Well, by the way, John will be the first person to tell you that. You know, he always says he's socially awkward in situations. But I will say this. You know, John Campea is a straight shooter. When you work for him, you always know where you're standing. And he's honest. He pays you up front what he says he's going to pay you. My only thing is that, you know, whenever he would make changes to the show, I would find out about them after he decided to make the changes. If he wanted to start the show at 11, he would. If he wanted to bring it back to 10, he would tell me that he's going back to 10. And I understand that's his show. But yeah, he will cop to that. But John always treated me very, very well. So there you go. Alex C. goes on to say, from AMC till now, he's always loved hearing himself talk and speak in a tone that his opinion is always the most high, and it just takes away all the air out of the room. Well, again, Alex, I mean, it is his show. I understand what you're saying. People used to say that to me, but I'm like, the show is called The John Campea Show. So he's got he's honed his pitter-patter over the course of a decade, really, if not longer. And that's what's built him his audience. And I think he's really good at what he does. Alex C. goes on and says, sometimes it's like he's not genuinely having a conversation with you and he just wants to talk. The dude has no filter. Point blank, the dude makes me dumber just by listening to him speak. Now, hang on there, Alex C. Again, I would say that it's okay if you've been watching John for a long time, so you know what he's all about. But he puts on a good show. You know, and look, I watch people of all kinds on YouTube. People I don't necessarily like, but I find their shows insightful or for whatever reason. What you have to respect about John is that he puts on the show that he wants to put on. Whether it's your cup of tea or not, you got to give it up. He's not trying to be anything he's not. You are getting unfiltered John Campea, and that's what he's selling. He's not telling you he's trying to sell you a bill of goods. He's telling you that I am putting on the John Campea show, and I've got to respect him for that. And I understand. Like, I wish people see that there's some kind of a problem here. Look, I think that John wants to do the show that he wants to do, and John is the star of his own show. And that's the way it's got to be for him. I understand that. And, yeah. But anyway, yeah. But I appreciate a lot of people have come. A lot of people have been very nice, and they've talked about how they've missed me on the show. They missed our dynamic. I miss it too. You know, I really like doing John's show. I have no problem with that. But maybe, you know, I can concentrate more on my own stuff. I've had a lot of work show up my way, doing different kinds of things. But I think that, you know, it looks like I adore Kimberly. I think she's one of the most photogenic people on YouTube. She's actually a delight to be around, and she has a whole different energy, and maybe we'll take the show in different directions. So that's always a good thing. Bobby Hatch Koal, how have you been? Mr. B, it's been too long. Philosophical question. Not suggesting that you ever stop pursuing your ambitions, but what if the Post-Geek singularity was your Bradford Falls? Would that be all that bad? That's an interesting question. If I get you correctly, if you said, you're asking me, what if I don't do anything more? Like, what if I stop pursuing my filmmaking goals and made the Post-Geek singularity my job? Perhaps. I mean, here's the problem that Bobby got to eat, and so do the ladies here have to eat. Got to pay the rent. Look, if I had 250,000 subscribers, the way a lot of the people I stream with, the way the Critical Drinkers main channel is, Midnight's Edge, John, Justin from Justin's Collection, if I had that kind of following, and I could probably build that kind of following if I wanted to stick with it, that would be good. This would be a nice living. But I'll tell you, you know, on YouTube, especially when you're dealing with ad revenue, super chats, tips, whatever, I'll be honest. I can do a show for 2 hours, right? And I can make $15 and maybe another $20 or $30 via ad revenue. Or if I do a show with a big subject and people come in and a lot of super chats or tips or something, you can make hundreds of dollars, but it's the same 2-hour block of time. And that's problematic in the sense that it's hard to build a foundation. I mean, I do want to get back to doing the show Robservations more regularly. But yeah, would it be so bad if I could be getting this the wrong way, but I like doing this show. I'd like to do more with this show. I'd like it to look better like John's show. I'd like to have it more lit. You know, I'd like to clean this place up a little bit more. Have a different agenda, different setups. I mean, you know, I could broadcast for 8 hours. Like if I was able to pay producers or something that were in the office that could work with me and run the cameras and things like that, it could be a good thing. And I would do that. I would work an 8-hour day and I would do different shows. I'd have different guests, different kinds of people from all walks of life. And I would do that like a drive time radio talk show. And I would do it all day long. And that would be something, it wouldn't be so bad. I mean, it's a really interesting question to ask. And I don't think I don't think it's the worst idea in the world, because frankly, it's getting more and more difficult for me to even get meetings and talk to people, because the reality is we have a sea change in our business and people aren't necessarily a white, middle-aged, cis male is not at the top of everyone's content creators list these days. And I'm hoping, you know, I keep making stuff, but you just never know. This little bug, this is a tiny, it's been staying in here for days. Alex C says, I really don't know who else would want to be in a room with him when I've seen what the chemistry is like with you, with guys like Midnight's Edge, Nerdrotic, Critical Drinker, and Geeks and Gamers podcasts. Well, those are also different kinds of podcasts. But you know, I mean, you go on the Critical Drinkers channel, Drinker is a novelist. You know, he's a content creator, and that's what he wants to do. And he's a really great storyteller and a really insightful guys. Alex goes on to say, it just seems they're more relaxed about themselves. It seems, and they take themselves too seriously. Well, I think I don't know. I think they don't. I mean, what I really like about streaming with all different kinds of people, like we were on Midnight's Edge I got to interview Danny Trejo, and it is incredibly humbling to have people like Andre and Tom over at Midnight's Edge who want me to be involved, and Polly from Latino Slant. They've wanted me to be involved in these conversations. And whether we were doing the cast reunion from Blood In, Blood Out, or the Stand and Deliver cast reunion with Edward James Olmos to benefit Latino theater here in Los Angeles, or going on with Danny Trejo and having a conversation. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I love doing. It takes me back to my special features roots when I was doing documentaries for Blu-rays and DVDs, and I really like those conversations, and they value me enough where, you know, it's interesting. What I really like about streaming with even that Critical Drinker stream, Mahler was on that stream, and I'm a huge fan of Mahler's really long-form videos, delving into the sequel trilogy and doing all the work that he's done. Drinker, Nerdrotic, all of these guys are who they are. They're very comfortable with their own personas. You know, people have said to me, well, Rob, you know, sometimes you're not the same kind of person that, say, Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers is, or, you know, even Az is different than he is when he's with you. And I would say that, but we're all multifaceted human beings. And I like all these guys. I like their enthusiasm. I like other channels too. I think one of my favorite YouTubers, not just because she's beautiful, but Impression Blend, is a woman who covers literature. She covers novels, and her taste in horror is impeccable. And she also puts on a great show. Her show looks great. She is very smart, probably because she's a woman of two worlds. And she's very much worth watching. And there's all kinds of people on YouTube. I mean, I find the Stradman, who I don't know, and he's in the automotive YouTube world that I know nothing about, but that guy, to watch the Stradman or Manny Koshbin, or even Life of Palos, which is a daily automotive YouTube news show that talks about other YouTubers. I watch those channels as well. So, you know, it really just depends. Alex goes on to say, I remember when John and Aaron were at Vegas doing CinemaCon footage, and she was answering a question that came in, and at one point he screams at her, would you just shut the fuck up and read the next question? Absolutely disgusting. I didn't know he said that. But yeah, again, Aaron being the rock star, pun intended, that she used those godly acting skills of hers just to play it off as a joke. But still, whether they're really just joking around, you never speak like that to a woman, goddammit. Well, they are really good friends. Whatever definition of professional he is selling, I ain't buying it. Well, Alex, I appreciate that, but you know, Alex, you've really got me talking. Also, does anybody really care about insignificant things like John's breakdancing videos? I do. God damn it! I wanted to see John's dance crew videos more than anyone. No one wanted to see those videos more than me. Like, dude, if you're going to talk about nonsense, at least get over yourself already and just show it. Well, you know, I think it's kind of fun that it becomes a secret. It's funny. Alex says, laugh at yourself. Show us it's okay to laugh at ourselves. I just don't always like what I get out of him. I certainly don't like what I hear. I can see he's pissed you off at times with the things he says. Well, but that's true of everyone. You know, that's true of everyone. The one thing that I'll die on this hill. What I love about John Campea is he is pure uncut John Campea. He's not trying to be somebody he's not. He is who he is. And that's one of the things on the other people that you talked about. They are who they are as well. I think all of the great YouTubers, the ones that people like in the space, are people that are genuine to who they are. Like, if you're trying to be somebody you're not, it's so apparent. And I think, you know, John he does a great job. Obviously, you yourself, you said you've been watching him for 9 years now. So there's got to be some attraction. You got to like his show. You know, there's probably a lot of people who think that I'm a monumental douchebag when I start the show with all my nicknames, but there are nicknames people have hung on me. Even John called me the existential Mr. Rogers, which I like. So, Alex goes on to say, Campea is boxing himself into a corner, I guess quite literally, since he's holed up in his garage. Hey, but so am I. The Robservatory's in a garage. Garages are great places to set up studios. When I was growing up in Seattle, most people who had bands performed in their garages. But I guess at the end of the day, over there in John's world, it's the John Campea show. It is, and I think that's what makes it good. I think that's what makes anybody's channel good. Like, I mean, some people get tired of the drinker's Scottish drunkard shit. I don't. I love it. I love the videos he cuts to. I love his catchphrases. You know, Gary from Nerdrotic. People like Gary because Gary is genuinely Gary Beekler. When you watch Nerdrotic, you get uncut Nerdrotic. And if Gary Beekler was trying to pull a fast one on you, people wouldn't watch. People watch because they know that he will tell you whatever he thinks like it is. He's got no filter, and you're getting his honesty. And I think there's something to that. Alex C. says, either way, get over yourself, adapt or die, John Campea. But you should be writing. I mean, I appreciate you're supporting my channel with all these tips, which I can't believe. That's very nice of you. But, you know, maybe using perhaps less incendiary terminology, write him a letter and tell him you're a longtime viewer and say, look, I feel these things about the show, and, you know, phrase it in a way that's not so incendiary, maybe. And he would probably communicate with you directly. Alex, he goes on to say, as for you, Rob, keep doing you, dude, and don't stop. Keep popping up on the channels mentioned before. Do what he can't do. I dare you to go on Andy Signore's channel. Go on Jody's Corner. Link up with Grace Randolph. What are you saying? Yeah, I mean, again, Grace Randolph Grace Does Grace. And she's done some great interviews with people, like having Zack Snyder on her channel and stuff like that. I haven't watched a lot of Andy Signore's channel, and I know that Jody from Jody's Corner. They stream together. I don't know those guys as well, but yeah, I mean, Andy's reached out to me a lot of times. You know, I just don't know. I mean, when I go on someone like the Drinker's channel, I mean, we would talk story. We've talked story before, like Star Trek: The Motion Picture, for like 4 hours. I don't know if there's a lot of YouTubers that want to delve into the actual mechanics of storytelling, but it's interesting. Alex C. goes, maybe pay Tyrone a visit, and how about some real rejects? SEN reunion, anybody? I could totally see you featured as a panelist on New Rock Stars talking about MCU, DC, sci-fi content. How cool would that be? Hey, I absolutely, I go on a lot of different channels. So yeah, it all depends what kind of a conversation everybody wants to have. I like discussing the entertainment business, and I like discussing storytelling itself. Alex C goes on to say, I know it's easier said than done, but I could see it happen because nobody hates you. You're not a decisive... Oh, no, there are people. Make no mistake. There are people out there that hate me. There's a lot of people that think doing this YouTube stuff is ridiculous. But I appreciate that. You're not a divisive figure, and pretty much Campea ain't. I've always thought you were far better than Campea. He didn't deserve you. But listen, John reached out to me. And I would say that was really nice when other people were like, obviously people have gotten to know me. And I think that the problem that I had, say, over at Collider was no one really knew me. No one understood, like, the problems I had with someone like, say, Clark Wolf was because she didn't know me very well and didn't understand my humor. And I also didn't understand some of the things that she'd been dealing with in her own life. I mean, it was when things went down there, it was a little hard having people call me a trash person. I'm like, well, I can accept that. Why? But they didn't really know me. Especially like Emma Fife, who I always liked. When she called me a trash person, I'm like, oh, I let Emma down. I felt bad about that. I always liked her. Alex C goes on to say, keep spreading yourself, your knowledge, your stories to your channel and others out there. Show the love, get love, a way to live by. Peace. Well, Alex C, that's what I try and do. That's what this channel is all about. And I want to thank you. You've certainly showed me the love today here. But you know what? I mean, here's what I think. I will say this. I get letters from people, all kinds of letters. Like if I do something like get drunk and fall asleep on a live stream, some people will think it's funny and make memes of it. Other people will write me letters and say, look, you're not doing yourself any favors. What I appreciate is the honesty. What I love most about this channel, like Tom Jr. Jackson, we are all goof people. The fact that we have a community where people can actually write me letters of concern. They can write me letters of criticism. They can tell me to fuck off if they want. That's the kind of channel that I want to do, to foster dialogue, even if the dialogue is sometimes hard to hear. As long as people do it in a respectful way, I'm open to it. And I'll listen to anybody. But I do appreciate, showing you, I do appreciate your feelings, and I want to thank you for sharing them. And, I would just say this. I think that John Campea does a really good job. I know that nothing matters to him more than putting on a good show. And he'll do anything in the world he can to give his viewers the best show he can. He has always done that. Maybe he does it to a fault. I don't know. But I think he does a wonderful job with his show. We've worked together for 3.5 years. I have the utmost respect for him. Now, if John's not your taste, that's a different thing. That's something that's up to you. I'm sure I'm not to many people's taste either. But I would say this. He is worthy of respect. And he's worthy of respect because he does what he says he's going to do, and he does try and put on the best show possible. We're just very different kinds of people. But I think that's what made our streaming together. That was why it was entertaining, because we're different kinds of people. But yeah, and if maybe if you wrote him a letter and talked about how you felt about his show, maybe he could make it even better. The lovely Emma Bannon is here. Emma Bannon sends in a tip and says, "Hey Rob, I've just had a brilliant idea. Why don't you slab all of your hot toys? You'd fit more on the shelves that way." I have to tell you, I have to touch my hot toys. I have to open them. I have to have them. I have to pick them up. I have to touch them. I have to caress them. I have to hold them in my hands. I can never just slab them. I have to play with them. I have to play with them, Emma. Julius sends me a tip. No, Julius, I answered your question this morning on the half and half, and I answered it again when I started answering these questions. So I've answered your question twice today. But I will answer it again because I think it's important. I think that, look, if Spider-Man can possibly reach that goal, but we have COVID cases surging now. It's the winter; they're starting to surge again. Germany, Austria just went back into a lockdown again. And there's all kinds of things that people are talking about. How the vaccine, or the actual, it's not really a vaccine, but let's call it armor. Also, the efficacy of it diminishes over time, they're saying, and it's going to be tough. COVID is going to be with us for a long time. And look, I still wear a mask where I go, and I'm vaxxed. I have to get my Moderna booster, and I don't have a problem with any of that stuff. I don't feel that mask mandates are a problem. If we had no more COVID in the world, I'd say, okay, I can see not wearing masks, but we do, and it resurges, and hospitals are choked again in certain places in the world. And so can we get back to, look, I feel safe going to movie theaters. I'm vaxxed. I always wear a mask. When I've gone into the theaters recently, when I saw No Time to Die, or when I've seen The Eternals, I usually I'll take my mask off to eat my popcorn or drink my Coke, but I'll leave it dangling. I know it's not causing that much, but just so I'm not breathing in someone else's direction. So if the person I'm with, I'm over here, I'm breathing in their direction. I've managed to fend off COVID as far as I know, but I do think that the movie theaters now, who's going to go back? Who's going to go back? They have to be safe. People have to be safe, and there's a lot of people that feel they're not safe, and there's a lot of people that have turned it into a political issue as well, and that's a whole nother thing. But it's definitely a question we'll see where all that goes. Jeff Yerke and Mrs. Yerke, how are you, Jeff? Hi, Rob. Long time no see. Life rolls on here in Northern California as we approach Turkey Day. Mrs. Y and I give thanks to our health, our glorious son Nick, having design gigs, your shows, and the entire Post-Geek Singularity. We wish everyone all the best. Live long and prosper, the Yerk Man. Well, Jeff, knowing how you've recovered from the back that you had hurt, it's nice to see you, and you're probably the most romantic fellow on the Post-Geek Singularity roster here, because you don't ever send in a super chat or tip without mentioning your lovely wife. And maybe maybe the two of you make a Turkey Day video or something. Hey, if you guys want, that's a good idea. I used to have people send in videos and I would play them. If you want to do that again, maybe turkey greetings for everyone, send me the videos at I'll tell you what, if you want to send me videos directly so Mike doesn't have to send them to me, you can send them to me at Robert Meyer Burnett at ludovicotechnique.net. I know that's a long email, but there you can have a direct conduit to me. Robert Meyer Burnett, RobertMeyerBurnett, no E on the end, at Ludovico Technique, LudovicoTechnique, ludovicotechnique.net. There you go. So yeah, Jeff, I'm glad things are good. Thank you for the lovely message and for supporting the channel. Benson's sends in a super chat. Rob, I watched the Rocky IV director's cut this weekend with the same best buddy I watched it with at the cinema 36 years ago. That is what makes the cinema magical. Wow. That is what makes the cinema magical. Robot, Picard, or Discovery, which is worse? Oh, they're both bad. I would actually say Discovery is consistently awful, but Picard was a level of awful that I thought vandalized that character. So I would say Discovery was worse. Picard's worse. Yeah, I'm not a fan. But maybe, hey, now we're going to get all kinds of Star Trek cliches in season 2. Time travel, a fascist future, trying to drive cars in the 21st century, all those. Is that all we're watching? Is just these Star Trek's greatest. My God, you go back and you watch an episode of Balance of Terror, it feels like you're reading classic literature. And when you read or watch a modern Star Trek show, it's like you're watching a cartoon from Saturday morning compared to some of the writing in the original series or Next Generation. But yes, it's the magic of cinema. Now, I'm curious, Benson, did you like the version? I've had a lot of conversations about the Rocky IV director's cut. I've watched it, and I was never a huge fan of Rocky IV. I love Rocky 1, 2, and 3. Rocky IV was like, it seemed a little simplistic and all the music montages, but there's things in Rocky IV that I kind of missed. I know they had to get rid of all the robot stuff, but there's stuff that happened within those scenes that I kind of missed. But it was interesting. Yeah. Matt Guillemette, I think I got that right. Women are like cars. We all want a Ferrari. We sometimes want a pickup truck, and we end up with a station wagon, says Tim Allen. Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes those station wagons will do things to you that no Ferrari ever would. So in the long run, you got to look at it from a certain point of view. But I get your meaning. Darth Plato sends in a tip and says, love your morning show, even if I'm not up that early. You talk about stuff I might not otherwise hear about. That's exactly what I hope to do. I love hearing you say that. Thank you. Especially about the Kit Bag movie. Do you have any idea what this movie's about, aside from Napoleon and Josephine being in it? Married in 1796, divorced in 1810. I think it is about their tumultuous relationship. I'm curious about it because of Stanley Kubrick and his Napoleon movie. I have the Taschen book, the big, huge book that came with like 5 other books that had all the development he was doing for the Napoleon film. I'm very curious about how that's going to play out, how that's going to work. I don't know anything about it, though. But it sounds interesting to me. Count me in. Mikey Lito asks, is Alex C. black? Inside joke. Mikey, I wouldn't want to venture a guess. By the way, how great is Tick Tick Boom? How many times you've watched it now? Sends in a tip. Thank you. Hopefully I'll be seeing you in San Diego. I haven't figured out what that's going to happen or how it's going to happen yet. But, yeah. The Jughead sends in a super chat and says, I love all my old Collider crew. Campia, yourself, John Roca, Perry Nimiroff, the late, great John Schnepp. You all brought something different to Collider, and we all love you for it. Love and respect from the UK, bro. Yeah, you know, I've always liked John Roca, and I've always liked Perry. Perry's also produced movies herself. John's got his channel, and, you know, you can still see people from the crew doing other things, but that's all good. Thank you for those kind words, Jughead. Bobby Hatch Kowal, back again. Bedford Falls. Metaphorically, I meant that the community you built here being an unintentionally great accomplishment in your life. A direct reflection of your positive nature and positive influence. Yeah, I mean, I like that. That, you know, that was a unexpected byproduct of doing this channel for me. I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought you meant in the sense that if this was, would I go live in Bedford Falls the rest of my life? Meaning, could I do this the rest of my life? And yes, I mean, what I was trying to get around to it is that, would that be such a bad thing? Making movies and trying to get stuff done in this climate is a pain in the ass. It is a hard thing to do. And I love making movies. But I've been able to do it, you know, not as many times as I would like. And it's a really hard road to travel down. It's been a long road getting from here to there. But I still got stuff, you know, still working on stuff. We got Dota Dragon's Blood. Season 2 is dropping in January, so I worked on 8 episodes of that. And hopefully we'll get a season 3. And, you know, there's a lot going on. A lot of other things, a lot of work happening, so it's good. So, yes, good stuff. But yeah, I mean, the way you put it that way, yeah, this community is the best part about doing this YouTube channel. 100%, absolutely. El Necron sends in a super chat and says, you're a pro, Rob. John show's boring without you. Haven't been Midnight Metal much. Haven't been a Midnight Metal much, bro. I've been living the metal. Well, that's good. That is good. Live the metal. Don't watch the metal. Although, come watch the metal because they're fun shows. Key Lime Killer sends in a tip and says, "Hey, Rob, currently eating Chinese food with my friend, about to see Dune for the 8th time. What is your favorite Chinese order?" Ooh. There is a Chinese restaurant, a takeout restaurant, that has a filet mignon dish. That's one of the best Chinese dishes I've ever had. But it was not necessarily traditional. But, I kind of like beef and broccoli. I like kung pao chicken. Traditional. Takeout. I'm a huge shrimp fan. Elizabeth doesn't like shrimp, so I'll eat anything with shrimp in it. But yeah. There is no Rob, only Zool. Sends in a tip and says, "How Rob started in 2020. Wear a mask. Remember today's COVID death count. The person at the top is responsible for every death. How Rob is going in 2021. Let them die of COVID. Who cares about the higher count? The person at the top isn't responsible." Oh, no. That's not what I'm saying. As I said, I am vaxxed. I'm getting my booster shot, and I still wear a mask wherever I go. And, I mean, it is people have, and I still believe in that. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. I always wear a seatbelt as well. I mean, I understand why there are people that don't want to get vaccinated, because technically it is still an experimental drug, even though it's been used on many, many hundreds of, 200 million people around the world have been vaccinated or something, or maybe even more. But I get it. I mean, I understand that, and people don't, mandates, or if they're forced to do something against their will. But I mean, vaccinations have been, when I went to public school, you had to be vaccinated for things like smallpox and diphtheria or whatever. So no, I believe in getting vaccinated. I believe in wearing masks. But I've now seen that there are people that do not, and we live in a free country. And I do believe in the health of the body politic. I think people owe their fellow mankind. And I'm like, if you aren't going to get vaccinated and you aren't going to wear masks, and you're going out into public, I think that's dangerous. I think you're willfully not looking out for your fellow man. But I also understand, I know people who've gotten vaccinated that have had bad reactions to the vaccination. So, I mean, I can understand why people feel that way. I just don't think that we have to practice safety measures at some point. But yes, today's COVID death count, I mean, it's inexcusable, to be fair. We have a lot of people that became re-up their memberships. Thank you for that. Alexander Wilson. How are you, sir? What's up, Rob? My mom just got exposed to COVID, so there goes Thanksgiving. Any good shows, movies, or books that you're into right now? I've been out of the loop recently. Okay, guys. Everyone's talking about Squid Game. Hellbound. Hellbound is some fascinating shit. It was directed by the guy who directed Train to Busan. The less you know, I mean, a lot of people have seen the trailer for Hellbound. People are talking about Hellbound. It's the latest Korean show. It is 6 episodes, and it's really interesting. There's 3 or 4 episodes at first, then there's a time jump. Or maybe it's 3 and 3. It's a really interesting show that asks a lot of very interesting questions. So, big fan of Hellbound. Now, in terms of books that I'm into right now, I'm reading the Neil Stephenson book, and I keep forgetting the name of it. It's about global warming and climate change. Hang on, let me tell you the name. Why do I always... I don't even remember the name of the book as I'm holding it in my hand. I keep having to... Termination Shock. That's what it's called, Termination Shock. And I don't know if I'm loving it yet. Zephyr Chan sent me David Ignatius' book, The Quantum Spy. I tore through that. I really like that book. It's a thriller, international spy thriller. Next up, I think I'm going to read Stephen King's latest novel. And then after that, I don't know. I've always got something over here to read. You know what I think I'm going to read next? I'm going to read the Salvation trilogy. The Salvation trilogy. That's what I think. I've got the third one down here somewhere. Yeah. Saints of Salvation. The Salvation trilogy, or maybe the Kim Stanley Robinson book I have, Memory for the Future. I don't know. There's so many books in here. But those are the ones that are off the top of my head. A. Wilson, freedomforum.org said, did you call Elizabeth a station wagon? Do they even make those anymore? No, I did not call Elizabeth a station wagon. She's definitely not a station wagon. I was referring to the super chat that somebody had sent in. I don't know. Do they make... I guess people have... It's all SUVs now. Does anyone make... That's interesting. The first car I drove was a Ford LTD station wagon with the faux wood paneling on the side. So, yeah, I learned to drive in a station wagon. The Random Menace sends in a super chat and says, hello from a longtime lurker. I like your channel. Well, Random Menace, I like your name. I like you being the Random Menace and you just popping up that you're a longtime lurker. But I'm glad you're here in the chat. Thank you for being here. And on that note, I'm going to end Robservations episode 763. I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank Kevin, the Comic Doctor, for giving away 2 very nice books on the channel. Please go and find the Comic Doctor on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel. Watch his stuff, especially if you like comic books. It's really, really good stuff, and that he'll come back and give out more books. And he's really good about sending you the books, and you'll get them. And I want to thank my great moderating staff. I know Greg Smith was here. Louise X. Sparrow is here. Brian Hepburn is here. Mr. Derringer is here. Darren Seeley is here. We got a full house. I want to thank you all for being here and moderating. I want to thank everybody for generously supporting the channel via super chats and tips. Thank you so much. Alex C., all that. I mean, I appreciate hearing the commentary. Appreciate all that. But, you know, I think one thing is there's a lot of people on YouTube. And if you don't like them, don't watch them. If you do like them, support them, subscribe, tell them what you like. And I'll tell you something. Anybody who has a YouTube channel, like I leave my DMs open on Twitter. I just gave you an email, Robert Meyer Burnett at ludovicotechnique.net, where you can always find me. You can go to our website, theburnettwork.net, and send me letters there. Please don't send me letters you want me to read on the show directly to me. They should go through Mike first, because we also might want to put them up on the website. So I want to thank you all for that. And I will be back with the Hollywood Half and Half. And, yeah. And I think I'm going to meet in the flesh this week, because she is coming to San Diego. She wouldn't tell me if she said she's staying with a friend. We'll see. Anyway, on that note, everyone, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to all of you, have a better day and a lovely tomorrow.